All right, good evening again, everyone. It's 4 o'clock, and welcome to the board work session for today, February 4th, and 2026. We will start with our second agenda item, public comment. We have 15 minutes allowed for this topic right now. Each person will have 3 minutes. And does anyone would like to speak to the board of directors tonight? I don't see any hands
Well,
raised.
Madam Chair, we do have one hand raised. It looks like it is from Randall Loeb. If you'll give me one moment, I'll get a timer up on the screen. I'll also actually, it looks like Randall put his hand down. So at this time, I don't see any hands raised.
Nope. He's
Oh, no,
good.
way back up. Okay. All right, there's Randall. All right, let me see if we can allow him to speak. All right, Randall, you should be able to unmute yourself at this time.
Thank you. Good evening. Hopefully everybody is safe and sound. I'm Randall Loeb. I live in an intentional community with refugee families in Lakewood called Angelica Village. I must say these days, as I predicted long ago to you, are unsavory and unsafe for most of us, especially those who are vulnerable. And we, as I said the last time, look to you for leadership that is wanting regarding the quality of life of us who are under siege because of the fact that the situation in Washington with Congress indicates for us locally and in every place that I go and see that we are more at risk than we have been in my entire 75 years of life, which I just celebrated last Thursday. I wish that I could say something that was more positive. I wish that people had respect, integrity, and dignity, but we don't. And so it is up to the local people to protect us and ensure that law enforcement recognizes the responsibility to follow through with raising their antennae to make sure that we are safe and sound in our communities. Every day I ride my bicycle, I see people who are struggling. I see more and more people who are in harm's way. I myself am. And it frightens me because I'm vulnerable just by the circumstances of my life and my age to stress, to PTSD, to intolerable experiences that I have had to endure while I've been living here for most of my adult life. I pray that you listen and heed the warning that without us and protecting our rights to vote in 2026, that we are nothing. Thank you for your indulgence, and I pray that you are safe and sound and your families.
Thank you, sir, for your kind comments, and have a good night. Thank you. Melinda, is there anyone else that would like to speak to the board of directors tonight?
At this time, Madam Chair, I do not see any other hands raised.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to the summary of the October 10th, 2025 board work session. Are there any comments or errors that we need to correct at this time? All right, seeing none, we will assume that this will be moved forward. Next will be the status of our Power Ahead Colorado program, and this will be introduced by our Robert Spots, manager of Power Ahead Colorado. Sir, you have the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very excited to present to you this evening. It's been quite a while since we've gotten in front of you, so we are going to kind of get deep into the four initiatives that are part of this program. So we'll be passing it around to our four program managers to talk about their individual programs. And with that, I will share screen. All right. So, just a reminder that the Powerhead Colorado program, which is formerly known as Decarbonized DRCOG, is funded by a $200 million grant through the Environmental Protection Agency. That was awarded in October of 2024, and we'll be doing implementation. The grant term is through October 2029. We have lots of coordination with our local government staff, but I do want to give some special recognition to the technical committee and oversight committee that have been advising this program all along the way. Special thanks to the board members that are on the call here that are participate in the oversight committee. It's just a good way for us to check ourselves and make sure that we're doing things right and in alignment with board policy. I don't normally like reading slides, but I'm going to go ahead and read this one because this is our mission and vision that Power Ahead Colorado provides homes and building owners with a trusted path to healthier, safer comfort through right-sized heat pumps, expert advising, vetted installers, and rebate support. And we are powering better homes, stronger communities, and quality jobs for Colorado's clean, healthy future. Over the last year, there has been so much contracting. I'm going to give another special shout out to our contracting team in admin and finance, who has been processing dozens of contracts on our behalf, both for vendors that are implementing this program, as well as now to our local governments that are getting subawarded, as you'll hear about shortly. But we also spent a lot of the last year hiring just an incredible staff. Couldn't be happier with these folks that show up to DRCOG and really are working together to make life better for the folks in this region through enhancing the buildings in this region. We have two more vacancies, actually just one vacancy. We had an accepted offer just last week for one of those final positions and one more to go. And because you've probably heard a lot of other conversations and programs in this space, I just want to flag that we are very closely monitoring the activity in building decarbonization throughout this region and state. And that includes a lot of coordination with local governments, both through our technical committees and just outreach, becoming aware of what programs they're operating and make sure we're providing resources to them. Xcel Energy, which is our biggest utility, we are constantly communicating with them since they have so much activity in this space. Our partners at the Energy Office, as well as Rewiring America and our Green Bank Collective Clean Energy Fund. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg, who's going to talk about kind of the first initiative that we want to describe tonight, which is building policy. So Greg.
Thanks, Robert, and great to be here with everyone on the board again. Apologies, I'm currently experiencing my third hiccuping fit of the night, so if you see my head bop up and down, I have no control over that. Very happy to talk about some updates on what's happening within the building policy world through the Building Policy Collaborative. The BPC is our peer learning space where we convene all of our local jurisdictions that want to participate in this effort to learn about the building decarbonization policies that are available to be adopted and implemented at the local level, to build regional alignment around those policies, to develop research questions that we will be answering through our research program, to set a regional vision through the development of a regional decarbonization roadmap, and then to really work on the nuts and bolts of what should the regional vision for buildings be, and what should be the policies that will get us there. If you want to go on to the next slide, Robert. So we've been going full force for quite a while now. We kicked off in May of 2025. We've had 3 steering committee meetings. We've convened all of the participating jurisdictions a number of times. We've split out into individual cohort meetings that are really aligned around how large the jurisdictions are. We've had, and that a lot of that work has gone on throughout the 2025, and we're really excited to be kicking off right now in 2026 in our policy working groups. This is where we will be splitting out to start developing policy frameworks and developing that sort of regional alignment, and really getting into the development of model policies that local jurisdictions can pick up and adopt as they so choose, hopefully starting in 2027. And finally, we're deep in the process of finalizing the regional building decarbonization roadmap, which we'll hope to bring to you all to discuss in the coming months. Next slide, Robert. So just to give you an update on the policies that we will be looking into, um, our policy working groups that have kicked off this year will be focusing on developing policies that address greenhouse gas emissions from commercial and multifamily buildings, such as benchmarking, uh, policies or building performance standards. There'll be a separate group that'll be working on developing policies um, trying to address emissions from the residential building sector. These might include transparency policies that require things like home energy scores um, to other step-up policy options that might encourage equipment replacement at the in residential buildings. And then we will have one more working group that'll start a little bit later this year that really is going to focus on energy code adoption and implementation support, working closely with our chief buildings officials to try to iron out, some of those friction points in, code implementation, and really try to streamline that process and make it a little more consistent across the region. Next slide. So just wanted to preview with you all, since there's a lot of work that we're planning on doing this year, what the process looks like. We're really working on the model policy development. And I should say policy framework development. There won't actually be like a model ordinance yet, from now through June. We are planning on then pausing the policy framework development to work through our research program to kind of understand better the implications, the costs, the benefits related to the policies that have been identified. And then we're going to take some time later towards the end of this year to really share that, both the policy frameworks and the research with our jurisdictions, with key stakeholders, and with our steering committee to get their feedback before we go into early 2027 when we'll be focusing on developing the actual model ordinance language. Next slide, Robert. Also, because we're going to be going out and starting to talk to people very soon, we wanted to just preview what our engagement plan is. So we've completed an engagement plan and built out our industry contact list and had a number of key informant interviews with key members of the building industry. And we have two of our initial, I would call them industry engagement sessions planned to introduce sort of the work of the Building Policy Collaborative and the timeline and ways that key stakeholders can get involved and share their feedback with us. And we've got our two initial sessions planned with the Colorado Real Estate Alliance and Building Jobs for Colorado later in February of this month, later this month, and in April. And this is just to say that we know that an authentic policy process, means that people have an opportunity to understand what you're trying to do, understand what the policy frameworks are or the policies you're working on are, have opportunities to provide feedback, and have opportunities to see how you've incorporated that feedback into your work. And so we are planning on trying to run a very authentic engagement process so that we hear from everyone we need to hear throughout the next year. All right, so that's a little bit about the policy work. I'm going to switch over to the subawards update, which is another aspect of our program. The subaward program really is how a pass-through money that we provide to our local jurisdictions to help support their participation in the policy collaborative, as well as to help support their adoption and implementation of the policies we'll be developing. So we ran round one of this last year it closed in October of last year. And ultimately we awarded 27 jurisdictions their formula fund amounts. That represents 42% of DRCOG of eligible jurisdictions, but it does cover the vast majority of our larger jurisdictions, representing up to 85% of the population of the region. It also represents about 75% of the total funds that we have budgeted for the subawards. And we were successful in, as I said, mostly making those awards a larger award amounts to the larger jurisdictions. Next slide. This slide just shares a little bit about what people applied to use those funds for. And as I mentioned, really the goal of the subaward opportunity is to help support jurisdictional capacity to adopt and implement these policies. And we're really happy to see that 85% of all the applications, applied to use some of those, at least some of those funds to support hiring new staff to do so. And you can see that the distribution for technical assistance and training and community engagement were also pretty high. Um, Permitting and system support was a little bit more on the technical side, and we'll be trying to address some of those streamlined permitting issues people have identified in round two. This is just another breakdown to show you a little bit about the different types of policies that the jurisdictions who applied for the subaward opportunity identified that they wanted to work on. So you can just see in the light blue that we had about 60% of our jurisdictions focusing on building code updates that will address emissions from new construction, and then up to surprisingly to me, even a higher amount focusing on policies for addressing emissions from existing buildings, such as benchmarking or BPS. And this is just a final breakdown of all the different eligible uses that we allowed in round one and who signed up for which one. And I think I just a special call out to Adams County for really shooting for the stars and applying for every single type of measure that we were able to fund. So that was a little bit of an update on what happened with round one. We are now moving on to trying to do the second round of the subawards, which we're hoping to launch in April of this year. Have budgeted in the subaward budget remaining $8.5 million that can be awarded competitively through a competitive process, really with a focus on trying to incentivize new participation from jurisdictions that didn't participate in round one, and focusing on trying to supplement those applications that we saw in round one, where they kept saying, "Oh, we wish we just had 300,000 more dollars to do X, Y, or Z." So those are kind of the major design criteria that we're focusing on right now. We'll be bringing a full policy for consideration and discussion at the March 4th board workshop. So this is just a little preview for you all. And then I think finally, just wanted to provide an update on where we're at with the research aspect of our program. We released an RFP in October of 2025 and selected New Building Institute as our responding vendor in December. They put in a really great application in conjunction with the Colorado Health Institute and Touchstone, which runs the back end of a lot of the BPS programs in the state. It's a $600,000 contract, and we're currently in the process of finalizing our contract. We anticipate that it'll be executed in March. And that contract really will cover all the research necessary to model the impacts of the policies, the costs, the benefits, dig into some of the impacts on the grid, how easy it will be for people to comply, and answer any and all questions that we know will come up in the model policy development process. And we're hoping that they'll be giving us some of those preliminary answers this summer, and we'll be able to share those back with everyone. So just to preview, we have a couple upcoming board and committee items. We have, as I mentioned earlier, the building policy roadmap that we will be bringing to a future board workshop to introduce, as well as the round two jurisdictional support policy. Thanks.
Robert, do we want to answer questions between segments or wait until the end?
I'll leave it up to the chair, whatever you prefer.
I saw Director Kondo had his hand up, so I wanted
Yeah,
to make sure.
yeah, Director Kondo, do you have a quick question?
Yes. Bottom of slide number 9, I think it says, if you were a community that received a grant that they would like to have attendance, I guess. And I wondered, is that members of the DRCOG board attending? Who specifically?
From a private, we have had great participation from our subawardees. In fact, full participation from our subawardees in the always happy to have any board member join if they would like, but that is intended more just for local jurisdictional staff to make sure we have their representation.
Great.
Turn it
Okay.
back over to you, Robert.
Good, Chris.
Great. Thanks, Robert. I am Chris Selk, Director of Communications and Engagement for Powerhead Colorado, and it's really exciting to be here tonight to update you on everything that's been going on with my part of the program. The last couple months have been extremely busy, which I think that you're going to understand when I show you the next couple of slides. So I will jump right in with updates about our website development. As a reminder, we have a $266,000 contract with ImageX Media, and that contract includes 2 separate website launches. And the first one occurred on January 13th, and the next will be phase 1 rollout in spring of 2026, which will dovetail with the incentives, rebates, and energy advising services that will be coming online at that time. The first phase of the website, though, has a lot of great information on it, including a link to the Colorado Contractor Hub, which Clay McComb is going to be talking about in a moment. So much great information on heat pumps, FAQs about beneficial electrification and heat pump technology, and a lot of testimonials from community members who have either installed heat pumps in their homes to great benefit to their families, and HVAC contractors who are doing the hard work out there that's changing our lives and theirs. I would like to point out on this slide, it's a bit of a snippet from illustrations that are the bedrock of our advertising campaign. We're also using them extensively, as you'll see in a moment, as part of our website design. And we were really fortunate to contract with a local artist, Brian Miller. He lives and works in Firestone, and his art and imagery and his approach are just perfect for what we're trying to convey with Powerhead Colorado. Just a lot of really great diversity, both from a racially and an age perspective, and we're just thrilled that we've been able to engage his services. Next. So as promised, here is a quick kind of walk through our website. This is the landing page, so you can see it gives a great flavor of everything that you can find within the website. As a whole, we have a lot of information about us, our team, the program, why DRCOG has been tasked with carrying out this work. So many blog entries, contractor finder, ways to sign up and get more information about the program by sharing your contact information. Again, more blog posts about heat pumps, a lot of space devoted to green careers, our GAPS program, our electrification workforce network. And then here's an example of some of the FAQs that we have to teach consumers about the importance of heat pumps and electrifications. And lastly, those community stories. And this is Laura Lopez. She's one of our favorite homeowners who tells a great story about heat pumps in her home. And then lastly, the contractor finder, where you can type in your zip code and the kind of services you're looking for, and a plethora of contractors pop up for you to choose from and talk to. Next. So A little bit about communications, moving on from the website. We are contracted with Karsh-Hagen for our marketing services on the program. They have been working through all of 2025 to develop our brand, our communications plan, and most excitingly, our advertising campaign, which I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of on the next slide. They have also completed the first phase of market research and branding. And Robert, can you go back? And in advance of the advertising campaign that launched on January 26th. Okay. So those campaign goals are really fourfold. The first and probably most obvious is to maximize the adoption of heat pumps. That's really the bread and butter of Power Ahead Colorado from a messaging standpoint. But we also want to make sure that we are improving the quality of life in vulnerable communities. And to that end, that includes the outreach to find at least 1,600 homes to retrofit at no cost to those homeowners. Thirdly, we want to make sure we have a really robust workplace pipeline, that we have training programs in place to train people who are interested in green jobs. And lastly, increasing contractor participation. As Clay will speak to, again, we can't do that work without well-trained contractors who understand how to provide perfect installations of heat pumps in people's homes. So I thought I would do a quick review. I know that quite a few folks on this meeting have been privy to a bit of our market research, but for those who haven't, I thought it could be kind of interesting to just take a look back at this. So Marshall Sustainability and the Institute for the Built Environment out of CSU are subconsultants to Karsh-Hagen, and they spent a lot of time in 2025 doing market research as part of the brand development and the advertising campaign. And what bubbled up through months of that research were these 4 different audiences who we are going to be attempting to reach through our messaging. And they really fall into these 4 categories. The first is the value seeker. It's just what it sounds like. The dollar is king with these folks. They really are driven by cost. The second audience, quality of life seekers. Not that cost isn't important to them, but they do put a priority on health, comfort, and safety before a price tag. Thirdly, we have opportunists. They really want that quality, but they want it for a deal. They want to be able to say, I got the absolute best for the lowest price possible. And they will brag to all their neighbors and tell everybody about what a good deal they scored. And then lastly, we have technologists, and that group is just like it sounds. They're early adopters of any kind of new technology. So when it comes to crafting a message for these audiences, it's really helpful to know what percentages these pillars fall into. And interestingly, opportunists by far make up the largest segment of our audience at 44%. Value seekers make up 24%, and quality of life seekers make up 26%. So really those are the 3 audiences that we need to be pegging our messaging on, leading with that opportunist messaging. So an example of that would be letting them know that the time is now. Strike while the iron is hot to get your rebates, your incentives, your energy advertising. If you act now, you're going to get a great deal and the best technology possible. That said, we can't forget about cost that's driving the value seekers, and we always need to lead with the importance of health, comfort, and safety. So it's been really kind of a fun challenge to figure out how to kind of meld those 3 audiences into our one target. Technologists were such a small percentage that it really doesn't factor in to the actual crafting of the messaging. Not that we want to forget anyone, but the first 3 pillars are the audiences that we're really driving toward. Next. So how do we do that? You need to have a very robust paid media approach, which we do. We have a budget of about $2 million per year for ad spend. The digital media spend began in late January. So if you listen to podcasts on Spotify, talk radio on Sirius XM, if you listen to music on iHeartRadio or watch television on YouTube TV, chances are good you've seen one of our ads already. If you haven't, never fear, because they start on Friday during the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics, which we are so excited about. Karsh was able to get us a great deal with a very robust number of ad spots at a very, very good price. And I just feel personally that the Winter Olympics really resonate with our audience here in Colorado for obvious reasons. We have Coloradans on the US team, first and foremost, but just I think a viewership that's really engaged and interested in these games. That will start then this month, carry all through the games, but it doesn't end there. You'll be seeing a lot of our spots if you're a basketball fan during March Madness, both the men's and the women's NCAA tournament, leading then right into FIFA World Cup coverage. We'll be advertising a lot with our Spanish-speaking outlets. We feel that's a really important way to reach a really important audience for us, so we're excited about that plan as well. Also, something I think that a lot of us are very excited about, we will be a sponsor on KOA Radio for the Broncos coverage for the 2026-2027 season. So I think a lot of people are really thrilled about that. And lastly, you'll be seeing a number of billboards throughout the DRCOG region beginning in March in some very high traffic areas. Next. So we really wanted to take this opportunity to give you a bit of a peek at one of our 30-second spots. You'll be able to see a lot more of Brian Miller's work in this advertisement. Speaking again to the diversity that I mentioned earlier in my presentation, Robert and I were lucky enough to be at Rocky Mountain Recording Studios when the voiceover work was done for this. So really got to see kind of how the sausage is made on this. It's so fascinating, got to give feedback in real time. And it's just so gratifying to see this kind of come to life before our eyes. So Robert, if you want to play this, we can give the board kind of a sneak peek here.
Will do. Please let me know if the sound doesn't come through and how to fix it if it doesn't. Here we go. Wish me luck.
No sound.
No
Robert,
sound.
no sound.
Hey, Robert, what you have to do is stop sharing. And then prior to you sharing your screen, there's a little box at the bottom that says share audio. You'll need to make sure that's enabled.
All right. Here it is. Here we go. All right. Try it again.
In Colorado, the air carries life. And with a heat pump, it carries comfort, too. Snug as a bug under a rug.
So snug.
Cool as a cucumber when the sun won't quit.
So cool, dude.
That's the power of a heat pump. Cleaner heat, cooler air. Comfort plugged in.
I wish my house had a heat pump.
Find out if a heat pump is right for you with Power Ahead Colorado.
So Director Flynn points out that a bug under a rug might be a sign of bad housekeeping, which I'll be honest, I had not thought about, but fair point. So, but it talks. So I guess that kind of makes up for it. But so I hope everybody enjoyed that. You'll probably be seeing a lot of it over the coming years. So hopefully you enjoyed it. But I don't want to just spend all the time talking about paid media. Earned media is extremely important as well. For those who aren't aware, earned media is basically the exact opposite of paid media. It's word of mouth that gets out about your program through more traditional media outlets like newspapers and television, etc. We're working with GBSM Public Relations. They have just done a phenomenal job getting Robert and I up to speed on the earned media approach. They set up some really helpful meet and greets before the launch in January with a number of local media outlets, and we had some really great off-the-record discussions gave us an opportunity to share background on the program, and I think really served to get a lot of interest built up with reporters and editors around the launch and everything that the program has to offer. GBSM did a great job of putting together a really robust media kit with our logos, so many FAQs, photos that they could use in their coverage. And it really turned out great. We've had such excellent coverage. It's been 100% positive, very accurate. And I don't know if any of you have seen any stories on Powerhead, Colorado so far, but we've been featured in the Post, the Gazette, the Sun, CBS, the local CBS affiliate, Canary Media, which is a really up and coming website, online media outlet devoted to environmental issues. We were both featured on CPR News, the audio version, and then also on Denverite. Many HVAC trade industry periodicals focusing on the Colorado Contractor Hub, and also maybe most gratifying, many Spanish-speaking outlets have expressed a lot of interest in the program, which we're really excited about because it's such a huge part of our media approach and our community engagement as well. And then I don't want to give short shrift to community engagement. This work is really ramping up. We do have a $4 million contract with Kearns and West for this work. $2.2 million of that four is earmarked for pass-through funds that community-based organizations can apply for through a grant process, and they can help us then with public involvement on the program, which we're very excited about. We're also working with Kearns and West right now to create community engagement plans for each of the program sectors and conducting very important stakeholder mapping that will carry us through the duration of the program. And that's all on my end.
All right.
If no one, go ahead, Clay.
What wasn't sure if I wanted to leave room for questions, but I'll go ahead and dive in if no one has any. Okay, great. Well, it's lovely to meet everyone. If I haven't met you before, my name is Clay McComb. I get to be the program manager for workforce and industry development. I like to say my counterparts on this team create so much demand for heat pumps, but we need the supply side. We need a supply of workers, workers that are trained on not just how to install a heat pump, but Chris said earlier, how to get a perfect install for a heat pump, how to make sure when you install this technology, it works for a long, long, long time for homeowners and there's not any callbacks happening. We believe this program is going to create good local jobs and careers for our new workforce, for the workforce of the future, and for our existing workforce. We see the HVAC industry changing before our eyes right now, and it's exciting. We don't want to leave anyone behind. Anyone who's been installing gas furnaces, we're hand in hand with them, learning and teaching about this new technology like cold climate heat pumps. So those are the programs that I've designed, and there's some tools that we've created to help those contractors. So first of all, Chris mentioned on the website we have a Find a Contractor tool. I challenge everyone on the call to try this out. It's live with real businesses. Robert, if you want to hit play, this is just a quick demonstration of what you'll see when you try this out on our website. You'll put in your area code. This is the page you'll be on. I just inserted mine, and then there's a list of different projects that you can look for. Energy efficiency, electrical upgrades, maybe getting an EV charger installed in your home, but let's look for heat pumps since we're talking about heat pumps. And when you hit search, I live in Capitol Hill. These are the contractors that are licensed in Capitol Hill to install heat pumps. So let's click on this business, Just Heat Pumps. I love these guys. Here's their region that they serve. We can see it there. I want to check that these guys are licensed. Yes, they have their mechanical license. And these are all of the licenses that they've updated in our system. I can see the different services that Just Heat Pumps offers here, the types of homes that they serve, and then I can even look at their work. Let's take a look at some of the work Just Heat Pumps has done. All the heat pumps they've installed. They have a little pooch with them doing a blower door test. That's exciting. So I know a little bit more about this small business now that I've used the contractor finder. So I want a consultation. I'll click that. I'll type in my address. I'm typing in DRCOG's address actually here. Um, but I type in the address, basically say what we're looking to get done, single family, multifamily, or commercial, and then how the contractor can get in touch with me. I can put my phone number in there. And then do I need this now or am I planning ahead? And then I submit my request. I didn't formally submit it. I didn't want a fake lead for this company, but that lead goes right to their phone. And so they're able to check that lead right away as soon as I submit it. So again, I encourage you guys to play with that tool, check out the businesses. We really want this contractor finder to be a rock solid registry of good businesses, businesses we've vetted and that we've checked their license to make sure that it's updated and good to go. That's on the consumer side. What do the contractors see? What do the small businesses see? If you go to the next page, Robert, um, this is the Colorado Contractor Hub. This is the back end that we've built as well. If you hit play, Robert, this will be a sneak peek. Unless there's any contractors on the call, you probably won't ever see this again. But imagine you're an HVAC business owner trying to get leads, trying to grow your business. This is what they see from the Colorado Contractor Hub. So they can, what we searched for earlier, they can put in special offers. Like I put here 40% off all heat pumps for Denver Nuggets fans. So if you're a Denver Nuggets fan, you get a discount from my fake heat pump company. Here's a project gallery of some of the pictures of our work they can upload there. There's Robert with his heat pump water heater, and me dressed as one with Mac for Halloween. Um, updating their service area, they can update that in real time. And can you can see it updates right there. So again, this is pretty in the weeds, but nothing like this has really existed in Colorado before. So it's great for the contractor, but it's really helpful for the consumer too to get matched with the right business. Update what services are offered. This video goes for a while. I get kind of into it, so I don't know, Robert. We can move on, but it's an exciting platform for contractors to really help grow their business and verify their licenses with customers. But yeah, Robert, I don't know if we want to. I guess we are nearing the end here. We have a training portal. We're giving $1,500 to each business that registers. $1,500 for heat pump trainings. We want to make sure that the contractors are educated on heat pumps in Colorado, so we're gonna pay for that to get them trained up. And then we even have an AI assistant to help contractors navigate different codes, permitting in different jurisdictions, license information, and also how to grow their business. We've trained this AI specifically to only help with HVAC and trades-related business questions. Um, and and again, if anybody has any thoughts or curiosities about this AI assistant, happy to chat now or offline some other time. But yeah, that's a look at the Colorado Contractor Hub. Next, we'll talk quickly about the Green Workforce Hubs. That was for the existing workforce. We need a new workforce. The existing HVAC workforce is retiring, frankly. They are aging out of the industry at a very rapid pace. We're not replacing those trades workers fast enough. So how do we get new workers into the trades? That's what the Green Workforce Hubs are designed for. This is a $5.2 million RFP that we've granted to Arapahoe Douglas Works. They're a public workforce center. This map here represents all the workforce centers in the DRCOG region. I think workforce centers are the best kept secret in local government. There are offices whose whole job is to get you jobs in your community. And I don't think the public uses them enough. So we've actually granted about $1 million to 5 different workforce centers across the DRCOG region. You'll see them with stars here. And so we have Arapahoe Douglas Works, we have Adams County Workforce Center. This map actually needs to be updated. We've moved the Aurora location over to the Centennial office, but we have one in Jefferson County, the Boulder Workforce Center. That's actually going to be out of Longmont, and so we're pretty spread out all across the DRCOG region with these green workforce hubs. The goal here is to hire green career navigators. In fact, there's some job postings right now for Arapahoe Douglas Works and Adams County Workforce Center, hiring green career coaches to really help the new workforce get connected to registered apprenticeships and trainings in HVAC, plumbing, electrical work, and pipe fitting. If we can go to the next slide quickly, these are the career pathway tracks that we're offering at the Green Workforce Hubs. So when someone comes into a Green Workforce Hub, they'll be able to choose between, like I said, HVAC, sheet metal, plumbing, pipe fitting, steam fitting, electrical and renewable energy, and building performance. And we'll have specific partners there. Those are Green Workforce Hubs. Lastly, I'll talk about some heat pump training programs that we're launching as well. These are called the GAPS programs because there is a gap in representation from certain demographics in the industry. So hopefully these training programs specifically can diversify who we have in the HVAC industry. This is our first GAP program is a justice impacted program. We've awarded this RFP to Breakthrough. If you haven't heard of Breakthrough, Breakthrough specializes in a really innovative approach to helping individuals that are at the end of their incarceration get the training, soft skills training, and technical skills training they need to be successful back out in society. And they have really impressive stats. 94% of Breakthrough's graduates remain free after their release. They've saved the state of Colorado and its taxpayers over $24 million in incarcerating people. It's very expensive to keep people incarcerated when they're out in the economy, working, providing good, livable income. They stay out of, committing those crimes again, we've seen, and a 92% employment rate. So we're really excited to work with Breakthrough on training on heat pumps and HVAC technology. As Chris has mentioned, Spanish-speaking communities are a huge part of DRCOG and our local economic success. We know homeowners don't always want to work with a tradesperson who doesn't speak their language, and so we need more bilingual and Spanish-speaking contractors in the industry. We've partnered with Mi Casa Resource Center, which is a historic nonprofit in Denver serving the Latino community here since the 80s. And they are going to be delivering Spanish heat pump training with the cooperation and support of Red Rocks Community College, Front Range Community College, and Blue Sky Training. So to the Spanish-speaking job seekers out there, they'll get really robust, awesome training from these institutions. And then lastly, our young adults. Like I said, we need more young people in the industry. And so if you go to the next slide, Robert, you'll see that we've awarded the young adult heat pump training RFP to Lutheran Family Services of the Rocky Mountains, who's partnered with Pickens Technical College. Here's a picture from Pickens Technical College, their HVAC program. They are so excited to be training the young adults, the future of the workforce. Young people are worried about job security. Is AI going to take my job? Until the robots replace us all, AI is not going to replace HVAC and plumbing and electrical. So this is an AI-proof career, and we're excited to get young people involved in it.
All right, thanks. I know we're running a little bit over here, Max, so I'm going to ask you to speed up through this. Apologies.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. This is Mac Prather, Program Manager for our Incentives Low Income Program and our Innovation Grant. Really, as Clay said, he's working on building that capacity and workforce and supporting those organizations. These programs are some that are really going to help building owners and homeowners install this more efficient technology and cold climate heat pumps. So first I'll talk about our incentives and energy advising program. Just as a reminder, this is actually a $59.6 million effort. We've broken it out here for you to show $40 million of that budget are incentives going directly to building and homeowners. $17 million is for advising support, resources, and program design. And then that, if you're doing the math, that last 2.6 million is for the actual administration of those incentive dollars. We went through that procurement and public process for this award last year and selected Vermont Energy Investment Corporation, or VEIC. They are really one of the leaders in the nation in these type of programs. They run Efficiency Vermont and a few other programs across the United States, and just have a wealth of knowledge and a deep bench when it comes to incentives and technical support. They're supported by Brindle Group for local presence and Group 14 Engineering, so that we can make sure we are getting those perfect heat pump installs that Chris mentioned earlier. Right now, we're in the middle of design for this program. This is really important because we'll be interacting with really everyone in the supply chain, from the end customer to that installing contractor, the distributors who are stocking heat pumps and water heaters in their warehouse, and even the manufacturers' representatives who are giving technical support and helping everyone in that chain. It's important that we make sure this program works for all of those actors in the value chain. And we're especially focused on the contractors because we know, as Clay said, these jobs don't happen unless we have folks that are actually installing the equipment and that are motivated. So you'll see some of that language here that really guides our thinking as a North Star. And for energy advising, we're also taking a no wrong door approach. We have 2 human energy advisors based in Colorado already on board. Those are VEIC staff members, and right now they're kind of getting on the job training with the Efficiency Vermont program. They're going to shift over to Power Ahead Colorado a little bit later this spring and start providing that support for our community homeowners, business owners. And when we say no wrong door, we really mean anyone who comes to us with a question, we want to make sure we get them to the right place. Obviously, we're going to have a greater concentration of resources with those partners here in the DRCOG region. But let's say somebody finds us from the Western Slope. We want to make sure they at least know what their local utility is and what programs are available to them. On the right side of that slide, sorry, Robert, one quick point on this one, you'll see some of the metrics. These are basically what we've articulated to our funders at the EPA. We're still working on how those translate into pollution reduction, into energy savings, and on calibrating those. We look forward to providing you all with updates over the course of this program in years to come. On the next slide is an update on our Innovation Grant Program. This is a $6 million effort. This also is administered by VEIC. This was a separate public procurement process again last year, and we are in the middle of design for this program as well. This program will offer small grants, about 200 to 300K for businesses and community-based organizations, basically to test new business models and new approaches to getting customers to cold climate heat pumps and these efficient technologies. This program stands apart from the jurisdictional support that Greg was talking about early in the call, and some of the work with community engagement that Chris is leading. Again, this is really focused on those innovative approaches to getting customers to this technology. We're kind of honing in on 3 different tracks for the first round of funding, which will launch around mid-year. And we're grateful for some of the input from our committees to date that's helped us focus those 3 tracks. We anticipate around 24 awards, and we're really looking for things that are creative, that are going to have impacts for policy, for our program, for utility programs, and help us reach more customers in the DRCOG region and have lessons for the whole state. So this is an exciting one. We'd love you to get the word out into your community when we open this solicitation a little bit later this year. And the third and not the least program area that I want to talk about is our income qualified program. This, to me, is an incredibly important part of the work. Chris mentioned the effort to try and reach folks in the community. And when we get to those 1,600 homes, we're going to be able to deliver no cost upgrades to at least 1,600 households with a really much more holistic look at the home, meaning envelope, insulation, heating and cooling, water heating, really taking a focus on households that are more vulnerable to extreme weather events like heat and cold, as well as poor air quality days that we have here in Colorado. So we think this is a program that can really make a difference. We're extremely glad that we've selected Energy Outreach Colorado as the administrator for this work. And we're still in that contract negotiation period with EOC, working diligently to get that contract signed and kicked off in the early part of this year. We will have some shovel-ready projects that are already identified, meaning there's some apartments, some homes that have already been through the weatherization assistance program and are ready to replace their old furnace. One thing that really stood out from Energy Outreach Colorado's proposal was identification of real shovel-ready projects, and we're excited to get those underway as soon as possible. That will lead us into a few upcoming items that we'll be bringing to our committees and to board committee shortly. There will be a policy for that innovation grant program, very similar to other kind of DRCOG grant program policies that outlines all the processes behind the scenes, the rubric and the solicitation. We're getting close to a draft of that and hope to have that in front of our committees in a month or two. We will also be having a pretty comprehensive policy for that incentive program. This one will look a little bit different than the grant programs or those typical programs we're used to seeing go through the board, just because the method of working through that incentive program is different. But what we hope to articulate there are our processes behind the scenes, the guardrails in that program, how we get approvals, and where we're spending dollars and focusing in the community. And then finally, approval for that subset of shovel-ready projects for the income eligible work I mentioned. So a lot in the works, a lot going on behind the scenes. We hope to have all of this to you very shortly and get this work moving out in the community this year.
Thanks, Mag. Just very quickly, I know we're out of time, but I just want to want to focus really quickly. We are kind of looking at this holistic approach to the market. You've heard so many words come out of us, but we really are attacking this market from all angles, both supply and demand, and accelerating it. And really, what the value of this program that we've found is this the kind of classic DRCOG position to be in that can coordinate between local government, the state, and other stakeholders like utilities. So the ability for us to scale this program, create alignment, and just kind of consistent information and coming from a trusted organization is really the value we bring. And I'm so sorry we went so long, but thanks, and happy to take any questions if there are any, especially sorry to Jayla, who I know is coming up next.
Thanks, Robert, Greg, Chris, Clay, and Mac. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I'll open it up for for questions right now. I know Jayla is next in our on our agenda, so if we can keep the questions kind of short. I hate to ask that, but we are running into a finance committee starting at 5:30, so we'd like to keep this brief. If there's any questions, please raise your hand, and then you'll have the floor. Director Rex.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to mention real quick. I mean, I hope this gives folks just at least a little bit of a feel for how much work has been done over the past year. It's been a tremendous effort by everybody, and obviously the lady and gentleman that presented tonight for sure. But some of the back office stuff has just been amazing. Some getting contracts and all that ready. I mean, to a quantity that we've never seen before. So. I know Robert shouted out to those folks earlier, and I just wanted to add on to it. It's been a monumental effort, and I'm so proud of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm speaking probably for most of the board of directors tonight. Thank you again for your efforts and everything that you brought to us tonight. We look forward to the next presentation. And I will now turn it over to Jayla, who is going to do an update on our area agency on aging. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I wish I had $200 million. I'm so jealous of Robert. I told him that the other day. I'm going to talk to you about where we are, the AAA, right? Our current status, what we're doing now, give you some performance statistics for 2025, talk about the challenges, very, very, very real challenges that we're dealing with, changes in innovations as a result of those challenges, and then the AAA, because of funding cuts, has really got to change its focus. For years, we have talking about aging well, aging well. How do we age well? How do we put things into the community, help people age better? We are now in a model of serving critical needs. And that is, it feels like we're going a little bit backwards to me, but you know, that's the way it is. So we have to deal with the cards. We have to work with the cards we've been given. Just a reminder, because I know there's some new members, DRCOG has been the designated area agency on aging for 52 years. We get our authority under the Older Americans Act at the federal level. These are the mandated services under the Older Americans Act. So we are responsible for providing these services in the Denver metropolitan area. We do this in a number of ways. We have the largest division in DRCOG. Yay, you may not know that, but we have 60 skilled staff that do information assistance, case management, the ombudsman program. For those that you don't know, may not know, this is a program that protects the rights of people that live in our 500 nursing homes and assisted living facilities that we have in the region. We do a lot of work around Medicare and Medicaid and other insurance programs. We have a veterans directed program. We do, and then we have a lot of 6 staff that help us with all the contracts. So in addition to those, addition to the staff, we contract with 22 different organizations in the metropolitan area to help us implement the programs of the Older Americans Act, all of those things, transportation, in-home services. And you can see these are our contractors that we're currently funding right now. Every year we take a look at who's using our services. It's really important for us to understand that so that we know how to deliver services better. I want to highlight this because for the first time in my entire career, which is like 36 years now at DRCOG, we are serving a younger client, 74.4. The last time we looked at this was a couple of years ago, so I lied. It's not every year. It was 80. So what changed? We're not exactly sure what changed, but we're trying to understand that. It's important to understand that. Why are people needing our services more? Are they sicker? Are they more, what's happening? They're more likely to be female. This isn't unusual. Females live longer than males in the country, but in Colorado as well. More likely to be living with others. This is new for us. Usually we're serving those who are living alone. So why is that? Are more caregivers understanding our services and asking for our services? I don't know. More likely to be a low income. That's good because we're we're supposed to target low-income individuals, so that's a really good thing. Living in the urban area, not a veteran, more likely to be a member of a minority population. This has also changed. In the past, our average client was Caucasian, so a change here. And receives an average of 60 units of service, AAA service per year. A unit of service can be a ride, a meal, an hour of homemaker service. Let me talk to you about where we are right now. So I want to give you kind of a look at the last 3 years, 23, 24, and 25 fiscal years. This is our funding and our funding sources. The thing that I really want you to take notice of is in fiscal year 2025, we were down 20%, 21% in funding. That's a big cut in a very short time that we had to maneuver and figure out what to do. It has impacted the way we do business and the kind of services we can provide. In spite of that, I'm very proud of our staff and our contractor providers because we were able to provide over 878,000 units of service. That's a big deal. Home delivered meals, congregate meals, transportation, case management, caregiver support, all of these things have, we were able to provide. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to take a little bit deeper dive into our critical programs, right? Congregate meals. That's one of the things we provide congregate meals all over the metropolitan area. You can see that there's been a decline in congregate meals. We weren't able to serve as many meals and we weren't able to serve as many people. Home delivered meals, yes.
Jayla, I'm sorry, you're actually in presentation mode. Melinda, can you tell Jayla how to get out of that?
Yeah, Jayla, if you go to the top of your screen, it says display settings and click that drop down.
Okay.
Swap presenter view and slideshow.
Got it. Thank you.
Perfect. You're welcome.
Sorry. You were seeing more of me than you were seeing of. Okay. Home delivered meals. You can see that home delivered meals dropped significantly from 2023 to 2025. I can tell you this was our wait list 3 months ago. We have worked really hard. We currently do not have a wait list for home delivered meals, which is really important. Choice Services Transportation. This is our internal transportation program. The program that our staff operates internally at DRCOG. You can see we worked hard to increase service here. We got some additional funding from $5310, and we were able to really work on teaching people how to use Uber, which is the cheapest way to get a ride. We went from bus tickets. You may recall that CDOT went from, they implemented monthly bus passes. We were able to start using those instead of bus tickets. And that was very popular with people, taught people how to use the bus system, taught people how to use Uber, and we were able to increase our rides significantly in that program. Our contracted transportation service providers, this is places like VIA, Lakewood Rides, smaller community ride programs, the program in Broomfield. We saw decreases in these services, 38% decrease in those receiving bus tickets and passes through our contracted service providers, and then 36% fewer people served with assisted transportation services. This is also our most assisted transportation could be door through door or actually couch through to couch, right? So someone needs the help getting off of their couch, out of their door, into the doctor's office, sat down on the doctor's office couch, that level of service. So we saw a decline there pretty significantly. This is looking at other services, and what I want you to understand here is in counseling and education, these are all those required services of the Older Americans Act. The funding subcommittee, the advisory committee on aging, and staff made it a conscious decision to move money to services that were life-sustaining, things like transportation to doctor's appointments, dialysis, the grocery store, and move money out of counseling, education, screening. Those are important. We still have to do them, but we made a conscious decision to put more money into those areas where we had bigger waiting lists and that help people live. We have grandparents raising grandchildren. That's a very important program that we don't talk a lot about, but there are a whole lot of over 200,000 grandparents raising grandchildren in the country. It's a big, it's growing, and we want to make sure we again tried to focus on where people were telling us they needed assistance. Information and assistance is a big one. How do I find what I need? I go on the computer and I see all this stuff. I don't know if I can trust it. I don't know if it's a scam. How do I talk to them? And then also respite care. Really, we heard from grandparents raising grandchildren that they really needed a break sometimes. When you think about it, you're 70, 80 years old taking care of your grandchildren. That can be quite taxing. So what I want to show you is that the funding cuts that we've received primarily from the state have a real impact on our ability to serve. And that means people are not getting the meals that they had before. They're not getting transportation service like they did before. They're not getting chore service. They're not getting homemaker service or personal care. I recently was in a meeting and somebody said, "What the heck is going on with DRCOG? Why have you cut back so much?" And I thought to myself, oh, it's not DRCOG. It's the state funding. We've lost $8 million just in DRCOG's Area Agency on Aging in the last 2 years. That's pretty dramatic cuts, and we've had to adjust to continue to serve. We've made some necessary changes. Let me first talk about the funding cuts and what that meant to us. We reduced funding to contracted service providers. So last year in 2025, service providers in our RFP asked for $23 million to provide service. We were able to provide them with $13 million. We reduced funding for internal operations. We eliminated 10 internal staff positions. We stopped funding 12 contracted partners. We lost our transportation call center. They closed their doors. So we had to make changes, right? We had to figure out what the heck are we going to do, because the demand has not gone down. The demand has increased. And people are in real desperation. So we have been writing grants, and we got a few. That's great. We've done cross-training of our staff, and we hired two positions that are like they can jump in anywhere where we need it. So let me give you an example of that. We cross-trained people who are in information assistance and who do transportation, and we train them we put them through SHIP certification, state health insurance training, so that when we had open enrollment, they could help out with the calls, the SHIP calls that we're required to take during open enrollment. that was really critical for us. Sometimes we get a flood of INA calls, information assistance. Don't know exactly why, but there's all of a sudden there's like 30 people on the queue that need help. So we cross-train people for information and assistance. That has been critical to our success this last year. We implemented a new transportation call center and a new transportation service, in that we moved, we implemented the bus passes, and we got new contractors at a different rate to provide transportation services. We got a new transportation call center. The staff had to take over for a while and do all of that transportation management for individuals and still are doing it. The call center we contracted with will go live in March. We've developed new partnerships. We are hopefully going to be partnering with Stride Health here soon. The board of directors reviewed the contract. Their board of directors reviewed the contract last week, and we're hoping to hear that everything went well, and we're going to be approved to start working with them. We changed the caregiver program to really focus on what caregivers were telling us they needed, and that is a focus on respite programs. And so we did that. Ride Alliance is a program that we've been working on to improve transportation. We got a grant to do that. We're continuing to try and move forward. We have a commitment to improving our data, our interoperability, and we will continue to make data-driven decisions. We didn't let anything backslide in that area, which is so critical for us. Understanding even more now than ever, it is so important when you don't have as many dollars to target those services to the people who need them most and where they could be most effective. This is a challenging time for older adults and for the Area Agency on Aging. The Area Agency on Aging always struggles. We never have enough money. But this year, the last 2 years have been different. We've taken those cuts at the state, right? But also the service that older adults get, Medicaid, Medicare, all of those systems have lost money as well. So last year, 2024 started Colorado's Medicaid Unwind program, and 700,000 people lost their Medicaid, some inappropriately. So when they lose their Medicaid, they called the AAA and said, "Hey, can you help me?" And we went, "Whoa, what's happening here?" The federal cuts shifted. So the federal government said, "We're not going to pay the states as much in Medicare and Medicaid. We're not going to match or pay as much. We're going to put that burden on the state." So the state now has increased financial responsibility to the Medicaid program, more money going to Medicaid. So they're making changes, they're cutting, and people are being impacted by that. Medicare Advantage plans reduced coverage in in a lot of our region, different plans. They increased their premiums, and some even exited the market. So leaving people without any Medicare Advantage. So they called the AAA to say, "Help us in our SHIP program, help us find another Medicare Advantage program that will cover my medications and the surgery that I'm going to need to have." The Department of Human Services lost $4.1 million. And I know a lot of you that are working county commissioners, or if you're talking to your county commissioners, you know that they're struggling to figure out how to meet these gaps. The senior homestead exemption is in question, and a lot of older adults benefit from that tax exemption. And then Old Pension Cash Fund. This is a program that's specific to Colorado that helps low-income older adults. It has been reduced as well. So all of these things are happening to older adults, and they are asking us for help. And we're seeing this huge demand in service, leaving us with big waiting lists. You can see in transportation, I told you we don't have a waiting list in home delivered meals, which I'm very proud about right now. There's still, though, when you sign on, it'll take a month about to get on services. The transportation bothers me the most. If someone right now calls for transportation, and they need like ongoing transportation for dialysis or cancer treatment, we're going to put them on a waiting list, and it could take up to 304 days to get service, and that's terrible. We have 1,699 people, well, minus 264. These numbers have changed, and I don't have the updated numbers, but hopefully they're lower. We've been working hard to get it. I know that our personal care actually has increased. So it's always something that we watch. We look at it every quarter. So again, we're shifting our priorities and we're going back to the basics. We know that this is what older adults say they need. So we really need to focus on that information and assistance, giving them information when they need it, being able to respond to them. We have people answering the phones live again. We didn't have that during COVID. Transportation and nutrition, in-home services, caregiver support. We don't do anything in housing because the Older Americans Act, but a whole bunch of people call us, and we do fund an organization to help folks find housing. So our focus, given where we are right now, right, our focus is going to be focusing on quality services for those most in need. We have a scale. When you call in and you ask us for service, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions, and we're going to rank you on what your need is. We want to continue to partner with healthcare and health payers, but we have to keep our core services solid so that we can be marketable partners to those healthcare systems and health payers. We want to offer services and the supports for family caregivers, and I'll let you read the rest because we got to go on to finance and budget. I just want to give you an understanding of where we are and the challenges that we're facing. And we've been talking to the legislature and saying, please, 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 we know you got to cut, can we be on the bottom of your cut list? That's it.
All right. Thanks, Jayla. I think we had to rush through it, and I'm sorry that we have to rush through it, Jayla, because it's so important to all of us what your department does for this area. So I'm going to offer a couple minutes for any questions that the directors have for Jayla. Okay, seeing none. Jayla, thank you very much. I encourage those folks who are on Finance Committee, please attend. It is critical that we have everybody in the room, so to speak. Is there anything else before we need to adjourn tonight? All right. Thank you all very much for a great meeting, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.